Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of the SAFR Podcast. I'm your host, Arvinder Singh Lally. Today, I'm joined by Burak. Hi, Burak. It's lovely to have you today.
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
Amazing. So we're going to talk about Burak's journey in visual photography and arts. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Burak. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. It's sometimes very hard to tell what it is. Like, is it a photographer? Is it a visual artist? Is it a multidisciplinary artist? But I kind of mix everything together. I recently moved to London. It's actually it's a year now.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah, amazing. And tell us a bit about your journey, how you got into visual arts, because as well as the move to London, what inspired you to get into the industry in the first place?
I actually wanted to write at first. That's why I studied literature back home in Istanbul. But then I've seen that writing was not very much my forte because I wanted to show stuff. I was more inspired by the visuals. So then I started fashion photography, and then I moved to designing my own clothes, and then ended up somewhere in between, like creating monsters and freaks. So yes, it was like my need to tell a story, my need to tell my traumas, my stories, my memory, collective memory. So they all came together. And at the end, it was like, yeah, I was a photographer all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I can say.
And when you say your stories, with anything specifically, you'd mentioned traumas and your challenges, but what was the sort of first story you began with?
Yeah, it's like my story, like I was born and raised in Istanbul, and I'm also Armenian. So like when you have all the Armenian culture and its narratives being told, and you're like living in Turkey, Istanbul, it's kind of a conflict. So this conflict puts you in a small bubble that you live in the country. So like this heritage also has its own generational traumas. So like when you have all of those memories and all your personal memories, so it's like overload of narratives that you want to talk about. Some write about it, some talk about it. I decided to take photos of them.
Yeah. Would you say it was more of like a pathway to escape from the things you were feeling, like the writing, which developed into art and fashion?
Yeah, I think it created a kind of a sense of belonging, because I thought I was like always in the search of sense of belonging. And how I found this was through art and also through visuals, because I call my ongoing project the Freak Mythology. I chose those two words because freak is the outsider, is the marginalized character, rather not a person but a persona. And I also chose the word mythology because it's actually like a story being told over and over and over again. No one can say if it's true or if it's not. So like these two concepts came together and created an environment that I felt belonged, actually. So whenever I'm planning a photo shoot or like designing a set or a costume, when I'm doing the photo shoots or when I'm interacting with the performers, I actually feel very belonged. That's why I'm doing it, I think.
Yeah. It's almost like you've taken something that, like from a bad scenario, so as you mentioned, trauma.
Yeah.
And you put it into good use, into having something that has an impact on society, whether it's your expression of arts or writing.
Yeah, and actually, like you cannot guess what the people are gonna find in that work, because as it's very conceptual. When you look at a photo I created, like, or a concept or a costume, you cannot easily tell what it is. If it's a person, if it's a creature, if it's an animal, an insect. So like when you keep looking at it, you find a piece of narrative of yours. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm talking about grief, but some other person comes and says that, no, this really makes me joyful. I mean, there's joy here, there's celebration here. So it's very beautiful actually to show all of those images and make see people's reactions in different senses.
I think it also is very much open to interpretation, because I remember when I was looking at some of your artwork, to be perfectly frank, I was a bit confused. I was like, what's going on here?
Even like earlier, we were talking about like if it's AI or if it's real. Like I want to be in that blurred area of what is real, what is not. For example, like in one of my series called Gojak, it was like there's this character. It's I briefed the performer that you should use your body as almost like very distant, dissociated with the world, almost like you're like a mannequin yourself. But then when people have seen it in the exhibition, because those characters were part of the exhibition as well, they were performing during the exhibition. So all of a sudden, I've seen some people playing with the character. I mean, that persona should have been an uncanny one, but all of a sudden they were like on the ground playing with stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's how they interact. But it's good, you know.
And as an artist, how does that make you feel when you see we'd had it like a specific purpose or an intention for an art piece or a character, but perhaps somebody interprets it in a whole different dimension?
I actually really love that because I don't want to talk a lot about the pieces I create. I've worked with some curators and they were telling me that you should explain more. I mean, you should say more about this work. But I was like, no, I really want to keep the blurred lines because when you tell too much about the work, it's almost like a definite truth you put on the table. But I think a lot about the costumes. Like I put this there, and this is the meaning of this for me, but I don't want to talk about it because people are gonna interpret it very differently, and that's what's beautiful, I think, about it. The exhibition was it was called Freak Mythology, and it is very important for me because I didn't want the exhibition to be just like the photos on the wall, kind of like you go inside, it's very sterile, you know. I didn't want it to be like that, so we played with the concept of space. So we used yards and yards and yards of chiffon to create kind of like a maze that people got lost in it. And also we used a very like little light, and it was like red light, so it was like hindering people to see what's in front of them. And there were like four performers with all of those costumes, so they all was briefed differently. Like one of them should play with them, one of them should pray with them, one of them should ask them to play with them, but then scold them and like tell them to get out. It would They all had their persona, what they were standing for. So it was like it was really playful for me as well to see people interact because at one point you see someone praying with that freak. They don't know what their agenda is. I know what their agenda is. It gives kind of a like an interesting sense of pleasure. That's like, yeah, you're a part of this project now. You're just playing with them.
In during your development of art, have you ever gone through the process of, well, almost not a consultation, but rather feedback sessions, so you kind of get a holistic feel of what each person interprets it, and when you look back at that, you're amazed by, even if it's beyond your own ideas, people might interpret it like we mentioned. It might be a sad story. They might interpret it as happy or joyful or as optimism. Have you ever gone through that? This episode of the SAFR Podcast is sponsored by Coupon King. Coupon King, having recently launched, is a platform where you can easily find working discount codes for your favorite web shops. It's as simple as going onto the website, searching your favorite brand, clicking onto the icon, and copying the code. All links will be available in the description below.
Yes, actually, the feedback session starts before the photo shoot because all of my models are not just models. They have their own traumas, their own memories, their own narratives, personal narratives. So before we do the photo shoot or I finalize the costume, we come together and talk about what's the story behind this concept. And I usually ask them, how can you see yourself relate to this concept? How can we change this? Or like I did one photo shoot in Tiflis in Georgia, and the concept was on grief, actually, that I had this black leather costume, but the idea was like how grief changes body and how grief comes together with pleasure, like how it hinders you running after your pleasure kind of concept. And as we were talking about the grief, and the model said that, what's the first emotion, I said, when I say grief? Or what's the first gesture that comes to your mind? And he said, laughing. And I was like, that was the least. I mean, it was not going to be an answer in my mind. And I was like, why laughing? Why this? Why that? Why that? So it was like, it shaped the character, it shaped the photo shoot. It was the same for the people that coming to the exhibition as well. Like, some people played with the character. Then I didn't see that playfulness of that character because it has buttons all over the costume. And then some people just had one of the buttons and were like examining it, playing with it. I was like, yeah, this is a game. I mean, they're playing a game, so I can create a game as well. So like, yeah, I take a lot of feedback, of course. I mean, their emotions, how they react to them.
When it comes to actually creating art itself, is there like a criteria of things you want to invoke from people? Is it the emotions? Is it their expressions? Or is it just generally like the feedback you get? Is there like a criteria that you follow?
I don't have that much of a like a criteria like that, like in a list or something. But I always say that, of course, like I have to evoke some feelings. Most of the feelings are related to uncanny. Like I don't want people to get too comfortable looking at my art. I always say that at the first glance, you see that it's very beautiful, it's very put together, it's polished. But as you look at it, there's something bothering you. There must be something bothering you.
100%,
So that's the criteria maybe in my mind, that there has to be that effect. Now I'm playing with new materials, and my latest favorite is foam clay. You can shape it whatever you like and however you like, and then it creates flesh-like texture. So like I'm painting it now in like flesh colors. I'm like, yeah, this is very disturbing. And whenever like there's a friend at home, they're like, what is that thing? So I like that face. You know what I mean? Like I like that thing.
Yeah, you like the ambiguity of like people thinking about your artwork. Because
Exactly.
it definitely, when I was looking at your artwork, I was in the same room. I was just like, what's going on here? I can see some blend of fashion and design, but I can't make out what's going on.
Yeah, fashion plays a role with it, because if I don't use the notion of fashion in the photo shoot, it's going to be mere creatures and like monsters and stuff. But if you combine it with like kind of elegance, and I also say it like naive way to show the creatures. So like when you want to make it naive, you also put the element of aesthetics, and the fashion comes in. So yeah, it's always a blurred line actually. That's what I like about it.
So would you say that's your objective, to kind of confuse the audience?
Exactly. And make them disturbed a little bit, yeah. Kind of like, what am I looking at? What is this? And then kind of slowly like peel the layers of it and say, okay, now I see what's going on here. Kind of emotion.
Do you get objections sometimes from, like, if you have an audience and you explain the artwork, and you mention is one thing and they're like, no, this can't be.
Yeah, I had this one piece called The Saints. It was about Jesus and Mary. So like I portrayed Jesus as a very like handsome sexual kind of guy, because he looks kind of that if you like look at some of his portrayals. And then I wanted to talk about like how this mother and son relationship could be twisted. So when I was talking about it in a seminar, someone said that, isn't it like disgraceful, like you're Christian and you're talking about this religion, and then is it okay for you to talk about it like this? And I was like, I just gave you the interpretation. I mean, these are the images I created. I didn't say nothing. I mean, you see the Jesus itself, and it's almost the same. It's a little bit more fashionable in my world. But I mean, you do this interpretation. But I totally get her point when she was talking about that. But yeah, that's the only thing I can remember actually.
Where would we sort of blur the line when it comes to things that can be quite sensitive, when it comes to like religion? Someone might see it and get offended by it, or someone like yourself might see it in a different way. Someone might say, oh, okay, it's an interesting interpretation. When it comes to artwork, how, in terms of sensitivity, what is the sort of framework that you follow, or is it just purely your expression?
I actually don't follow a framework there, because I don't want to get vulgar in any of my work. I always, as I said it before, like I want to put it in a very polished and like naive form. But if it's talking about something disturbing, or even like something crossing the line, yeah, it should be. I mean, art should be like this. Art cannot be that nice. It has to poke some places, and some people has to get disturbed.
And is that the same with your writing as well? I imagine the two and two go together.
Yes, and for my writing, actually, like I try to be as close as possible. So it's not gonna poke anything. It's the visuals that could make people disturbed, let's say.
So they almost sort of oppose each other, your writing and your artwork.
Yeah,
you say?
yeah. I cannot say, by the way, that my writing is that strong because that's the reason I'm taking photos, that I'm doing visuals. Because whenever I am talking about my work or like I'm talking about myself, I see that I'm like getting anxious. I'm anxious now. But it's easy to show what I do. It's easy to like show what's on my mind rather than talking or writing about it.
Yeah. Okay. So your preferred medium is artwork.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly.
So let's say somebody's in the audience is watching this right now and they want to get into artwork. They don't have an arts background, so they didn't study art like at college or university. What would you suggest to them to get started?
I actually don't have an art degree as well, so like I can be an example of it. So like I studied literature, but that's some kind of a different kind of art form. But it's actually like playing is the most important aspect of it, because when we are so focused on creating something or focused on it being so good, so put together, so polished, so we lose the concept of playing. I think that is a trap. So like if someone starts doing something, just play, don't take it too seriously. Just do bad stuff that people are not gonna like, but be consistent on it. Like actually that's also a feedback that I give to myself, because lately I see myself that I'm not playing enough because I'm now taking things seriously now. I used to play a lot. So what I mean by playing is like play with the materials, play with the lighting, play with this and that. Just make bad artwork. No one cares about it. I mean, you just do something and put it away, and that's okay. So if you want to do something, just trust your guts and like play with it. I mean, don't take it too seriously.
In a way, it's kind of, I mean, from previous discussions we had on the podcast as well, that we kind of lose that childlike feeling. When we become adults, we become a bit too more serious, a bit more sort of kind of fixated, and we lose, like you mentioned, that child sort of play.
Exactly.
Would you say that most of your artwork is done for yourself, or would you say there's a specific audience in mind when you do it?
I see the shift. First, it was like all for myself, and I was playing with my friends, I was playing with my materials. Usually I used unconventional materials. Then I was like, let's play with this trash bag and see what I can do with it. And then I think the exhibition was like a milestone that I've seen people, how they reacted, what I could do. I mean, what I could evoke feelings in people. So like it was kind of like a milestone that then I started to take things seriously. Now I'm always trying to remind myself that don't forget the child inside. I mean, he's curious, he's playful, he's like a nasty little child that like wants to play with things and just throw it away and then do something else. Yeah, I think we should always remind ourselves that we don't have to be that successful. I mean, at the end of the day, how can we define success? I mean, someone can say that playfulness is the term of success, or like other can oppose to it. But yeah, I think that childlike curiosity and playfulness is the key.
And in a fun way, actually, that's kind of how we met. At the train station as well, just out of pure curiosity, and then you kind of get the ball rolling from there, and you just speak to people. So I think it works out quite nicely.
Yeah. And also the curiosity and like that childlike energy is needed, not just about creating art, but also with networking, like with also meeting people. It's like you always have to be like open to new stuff. You always have to like vulnerable in one sense. I mean, we adults have that sense of vulnerability as like something negative, but for a child it's not negative, it's neutral. So we have to, I think, remember that and be more playful.
Of course. I think it segues nicely into your move from Turkey to the UK or London more specifically. How has that been in terms of your just life and career and just in general?
It's been good so far. Actually, like I always say this, that in Turkey, in Istanbul, I had few opportunities because the art scene there is smaller compared to London. So like, but I was doing stuff, I was trying to create more art. And then I moved to London. And when I started like digging in that what opportunities do I have? What can I do with it? So who can I work with? So like these stuff was too many opportunities, like abundance of opportunities compared to Istanbul. So I think this comes with a challenge because this can be kind of paralyzing because there you have like a smaller path that you can just navigate easily, but here is like a huge world that you have to like find your way, meet right people. I mean, it's kind of challenging, but in terms of like opportunities, it's very exciting. Like, and it's been very good so far because when I first started, I mean, meeting people, going to workshops, having some feedback from artists, people were telling me that London people are going to be so like, I'm trying to find the right word to say that. They're going to be distant. They're not going to be that helpful and friendly, this and that. But everybody I met was so friendly. I was like, I don't know if I'm lucky or not, but I met many amazing people, many amazing artists. And yeah, it's been very good so far. In terms of life, actually, like you have a lot to learn and unlearn. Because, for example, the simplest thing that I was shocked was in Turkey, you cannot just go outside and do a photo shoot. You have to have like a letter from there, from the council, from this and from there. And I was searching here that how can I do a photo shoot in Barbican? So like they were saying that you just fill out the form and you could show up there. And if it's like a 4-person like photo shoot, everybody's gonna be fine with that. So I'm like, okay, so I can just go to Barbican and do the photo shoot there. No one's gonna kick me out. And they're like, yes, sure. I mean, the city is yours. You can do anything. So this was like, wow, okay, now it puts a pressure on you. Like, okay, now I have the city. Now I have each and every place of the city. That what can I do with it? Yeah, that part is challenging actually.
Yeah. Was that specific to street photography or just general, like in stores or in Barbican?
For the Barbican, I'm really a fan of brutalistic architecture, and Barbican was the first place that I visited in London many years ago. I was like amazed with the architecture. I know it's kind of a polarizing building. People also see that it's like an ugly one standing, an ugly concrete block in the heart of the city, but I find it very beautiful. So like I always had this dream that okay, one day I'm gonna do a photo shoot here. So I'm now working on the concept that because the structure itself is very like very structured, very stiff. So how can we play with that with the character being so fluid inside, trying to see that conflict? That's why I have my eyes on Barbican.
And does it marry quite nicely with the whole idea of like the ambiguity side of things?
Exactly, yeah.
Portraying a different picture to what it actually is.
Yeah, because the structure itself is like very like you see its borders clean cut, but the character is going to be so fluid, so like borderless. So I'm after that conflict.
Yeah. Would you mind just sharing some of the projects that you're working on or are coming in the future?
Yes, actually, now I'm trying to push myself, go out of 2D because I call what I do performative photography because it's basically a performance. It's not just like pose like this, pose like that, but it's like let's play, let's have this narrative and talk about it. So I'm trying to go out of the 2D and work more on like the performance aspect of it. Maybe do some video work. Now, currently, I'm working on creating this huge costume. It's made out of like 10 or 20 pieces of jackets that I'm going to deconstruct and construct again. I love working with jackets because jackets are the ultimate masculine figure. But if you play with it, you can make it more queer. You can make it like more, I don't know, like very play with that character as well, play with masculinity as well. So I have that project that I'm working on. It's again gonna be talking about grief, talking about collective memory, but in a more masculine way, because I used to talk about grief in a very feminine sense, because in my personal narrative, grief was very feminine in my family, because all the men were gone and then the women were like grieving, and it was like it's very different for me, like how women grieve and how men grieve. As men has this always like this idea of be strong, be this and that. So I want to play with that and create a character, a grieving character, but not in a ordinary masculine way.
Yeah, in a very ambiguous way, as we mentioned before.
Exactly.
And so, what would be some of the key sort of characteristics to distinguish the feminine way of grieving to the masculine way of grieving? Any ideas at the moment?
I think I'm still on the research phase of this project, but the feminine way, as I observed, it was like more fragile, more vulnerable, more like you always have to be the caretaker, but also you cannot leave everything out and go on. It's always like constant suffering, but in a masculine way, you have to like suppress everything and go on being the man. It's like keeping that structure, even like in the form of body. I mean, women change structures of their bodies, like they get smaller or they use their gestures differently, but for men it's just the opposite, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So like, yes, I want to play with that.
It's almost like they have to maintain like almost like a stoic figure, whether they're happy, sad, they lost the whole family, but just continue the day as normal.
Exactly. A man trying to be a man. It's a constant struggle, I think.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Any other projects that you're working on?
I have a lot actually. Like I am working on a book right now. It's called The Freak Mythology on Display.
Sure.
Because I really want to show people that how these characters are connected to each other. So what makes this a mythology? Because each and every character has their role and they're kind of connected to each other. So I'm going to create a narrative. I am actually like writing the narrative of how these characters are connected, what their stories are, where do they get together or where they separate, kind of thing. So it's going to be like a photo book. And but then it's going to tell the mythology of it.
Yeah. Let's say a couple of years down the line, let's say 5 years, do you sort of see this kind of being a production, like an actual media production that's on like YouTube or Netflix?
Yeah, I actually want to create a performance at first with live audience, but then why not, I mean, be a digital production or show it somewhere, because when it's like 2D, it's really hard to see how these characters are moving, how they are living. But when it's a performance, you can engage people more. So that's another project that I'm working on. That how can I make? There's this project called, there's this work called Extension that I did with this huge headpiece, sitting on a chair, holding a photo of someone that she doesn't know who she is. So like I want to create this character and let her go into the wild and meet people. It's interesting because even like changing cities, in Istanbul, how people reacted to these characters versus London, how people are going to react to these characters are going to be so different. So first, I want to start with baby steps and go just outside and see how people are reacting to it, and then moving it to a performance that people can interact, engage with the characters.
It sounds almost like an evolution. You start off writing, or more as they start off with the thought, the memory of trauma, writing, artwork, and it's eventually going to be media or even a play.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a constant evolution of the ideas.
Yeah, it has to be like that. It has to constantly evolve and change shape, because it gets boring to me as well. But to change its shape, to make people see more about that character, it's very exciting actually. And also I'm looking for collaborating with new people, because here I had, like when I was in Istanbul, I had these people that I was like, yeah, I want to work with them. I want to do this, I want to do that. But now I'm living in the same city with them, so it's very easy for me to meet them, collaborate them. So like we've made a couple of meetings about some new projects. Yeah, it's also very exciting.
That's the beauty of London. You can meet anyone from
Exactly.
anywhere,
Yeah.
any realm. I did have a question about when it comes to artwork. So you mentioned that although you prefer having that sort of ambiguous side of when you do create artwork, but let's say you're given a project and you have a specific target audience, so you know what they like, the sort of things they're looking for. How do you sort of navigate that?
I never had that actually. You mean like work asked for me to target
A specific audience. So the theme is specifically, let's say, grief in this case, and it has to be exactly in that realm. Because I know you like to mention you like to do ambiguous stuff, so open to interpretation. Someone might view it a different way.
I don't think that these concepts can be taught differently, very apart from each other, because I always say that memory, identity, and grief is a main part of my work. And these three concepts, I think they have to get into each other. You know what I mean? Like you cannot think of them like as separate concepts. When you're dealing with grief, your idea of identity is going to change, of course. When you're dealing with grief, your memory is going to change, of course. It's like when you think of like transgenerational traumas, your collective memory is going to affect you in a way that you interpret how the grief works. So like separating these three, I don't think that's possible. I mean, even if you say that, okay, this is about grief, of course there's going to be something about memory. Of course there's going to be something about identity as well.
Maybe if we use a different topic, like let's say happiness. We're going to create an exhibition about happiness. Is it the same sort of framework we're using?
Yes, most probably. Happiness, when you said that word, I was like, okay, my work is so like dark and gloomy and traumas, that happiness was like, okay, I don't know what I would do with happiness. Yeah, if it's the vision that you have, that whatever you do, whatever topic you lean through, like you'll always have this idea of playing with identity, memory, and grief. So whatever topic I'm working on next, of course there's going to be something about these as well. I don't know if this was an answer to your question.
Yeah, amazing. But yeah, Burak, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's been a lovely conversation to have about artwork and design. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for having me.